Hi, and welcome to Business as Usual. Got my buddy Paul Falewicz with us today. Today we're going to give you some advice on how to grow your business. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So why don't we start at the beginning? What do you think is the number one hurdle holding businesses back?
It's usually the business owner. For whatever reason, they are stubborn at times. They just don't want to get into the 21st century. They want to do things the way they were doing it 20, 30 years ago. Some of that does have value, but some of that doesn't translate to what's going on today. So they got to kind of get out of their own way and run the business as if it's 2018.
I try to teach myself that all the time. I get caught up in doing something and I'm like, pause. How do you make money? If you're doing something that is not helping you make money, you should probably be having someone else do it. Agree?
Cash is king. That's my motto. That's how I live my life. And without money, there's not a lot of things you can do. So as a business owner, that is the most important thing. They need to make sure that they do have that money. So if they want to grow, they want to expand, whatever they want to do, they got the flexibility at that moment instead of trying to borrow from everybody in their life that they know.
Paul, as a financial guy with your background, one of the things I see people being very hesitant is to think about their financials. People look at revenue. Made a ton of money this year. Well, they look at their bank statement and it doesn't reflect that. You must see that.
It happens all the time. People are saying, hey, you know what, my business is doing great. I'm going through the roof and hey, I got $2 in the bank and they're priced wrong. There's a lot of issues that they have going on. They're overspending, you name the gamut of what they're running into at that point, but they're struggling to figure out what's going on. And sometimes, they're just not, again, they're in their way of trying to figure all that stuff out, and that becomes where their biggest problem is. And again, money helps a lot of problems in a business, and without
it hides
money,
a lot of them too. Though.
Without money, the business doesn't exist. There's a lot of things that go there, as well as the same other side. You can hide the money, you do a lot of different things, but you don't want to get in trouble at the end of the day either. So
yeah, I see that. People don't take the time to evaluate things. Maybe you've been using a service forever. When was the last time you shopped it? Saying, hey, we've been using maybe this IT company. Is this the most affordable option for us? Do we need this? But like you said, sometimes it's the death by 1,000 paper cuts. You're paying $40 a month for this service. $50 for this. You're like, oh, it's $50. But when you look at it and go, well, you spend like $500 a month on services that you thought you were going to use and you never have. So sometimes bringing in that fresh set of eyes can kind of uncover some of that stuff.
It's very easy. I mean, the minute you look at some of those numbers, you'll see things and you'll go, hey, you'll question it. Something that it's been natural for them for months after month. They're not looking at it. They're not really paying attention to it. A fresh set of eyes says, hey, what is this? And they go, I haven't used that service in 6 months and, paid $50 a month, and all of a sudden that money is kind of out the door at that point. There's no way to get that back. So a fresh set of eyes really helps understand what's going on, and just ask the question to make sure that you validate what you're doing. And that's what the biggest thing is. You want to make sure you have a little bit of validation. You need a little bit of accountability. Not everybody wants to be accountable, but in the business side, you need someone just to say, hey, what's going on? So at least you can make sure that thing is taken care of. So
as we enter the new year, what should people's goals be?
Your goal is whatever you want it to be, but you have to have, in my opinion, you have to have a goal. If you don't have a goal, you just kind of spinning your wheels at that point. I met someone a little while ago and they said, my goal is in my head. And I said, as long as you have a goal, it could be written, it could be in your head, but even in your head, it's not down on paper. So is it really a goal at that point? And if I didn't make the goal, I said, I got 50% of the way there, but no one knows what that real measurement was at that point.
Well, like you said, you see all these articles, especially this time of year, about the value of writing down your goals, because then you look at it. Obviously, you got to keep it someplace where we joke at a lot of people, they write their goals down, go out and buy a fancy, leather journal or something to write it in, and then they never look at it. At the end of the year, you pull it out going, hey, what were my goals for this year? Well, being whatever this is, December something, probably not the time to reflect and say, hey, did I hit the goals? You got to monitor it as you go, right?
It's a year-round thing. I mean, January 2nd all the way through December 31st. You want to make sure you're looking at that. You want to see where you stand at that point. most people, again, want to be able to be measured of whether they're doing well or they're not doing as well. And that goal written down, if you look at it on a daily basis, you'll say, hey, I'm doing what I need to do, or hey, I'm not doing what I need to do, and what do I need to do to get to that goal at that point?
It's interesting because I know I can be guilty of this. I see this happen a lot. It's people write down their goals and start going about their life, and things are going really well. And then you stop doing the things that made things go really well, whether that's going to networking events, it's marketing, whatever you were doing. You start to, hey, things are going good. I don't have as much time to do that. And then they kind of slip right back. Do you see that?
It happens all the time. I mean, it's really human nature. Unfortunately, whether it's business or your personal, if you're having success, you're going to ride that success. And if you're struggling, sometimes you don't know how to get yourself out of that rut. So it's very important for to have those goals, be able to look at it, and be able to take a step back and have somebody reassess it for you too, because sometimes you're looking through it and you have that lens that's slanted toward yourself, and you think you're doing great, but in reality everyone else sees that you're kind of struggling and not getting to that point that you need to.
But sometimes I find that the opposite can be true, where people do set goals, but they're super unrealistic. I think we've all been guilty of that. You have a good month and you get X number of clients, you start multiplying by 12. Like, well, if I get 10 clients in January, so I'm gonna, it's gonna be great. I'm gonna have an amazing year. And then in February you get 2, and you're like, well, geez, what happened? So they have to be realistic too. You're like, oh, everyone's gonna want to join my networking group. I hear that all the time. Well, everyone wants to be a client. Well, there's nobody that I've ever met that everyone wants to be their client. How do you make it realistic?
I think you have to look back, and you got to look at what you did. You got to look at what you can do as well. Again, everybody wants to make $1 million, but unfortunately, not everyone's going to make $1 million.
Yep.
So you have to have something that's realistic. When I look at people who say, hey, I want to make $1 million and I charge, say, $20 an hour, there's not enough hours in the year to get to that $1 million. Right, yeah. So something has to change at that point. And you just have to say, you know what, if I do this enough and I work hard enough, I'll be able to get to where I get to. But you have to set something that's realistic, and then just push that envelope just a little bit further to make sure that you get to that goal.
Yep.
And not try to do something that's going to be completely impossible. And at the end of the year, you get to 20% of the goal, and you're just not in a positive mood at that point because you just weren't there, but you were just never going to get there.
Yeah. And it's hard because, I see a lot of people, maybe lost a job, decide to go out on their own, with these, goals and dreams, and then, they don't hit them. And they're looking at it saying, should I just go out and get quote unquote a real job again? Should I go back to the corporate world? And that's a real dilemma for a lot of people. It's funny, I had a client, he got tired of having to travel all the time. He's like, I'm going to start my own. I'm going to be able to offer the services I was offering larger clients, scale it down to small business owners, help them be successful while getting back to quality of my life of not traveling. And that lasted like one Mississippi. Someone came along, offered them, a lot of money to come back into the corporate world. And I call them like, hey, you want to come? Nah, dude, I got a real job again. So sometimes you got to make that decision whether or not you should be out on your own, right?
And that is a personal decision. That's sometimes the toughest decision, because if you're in the corporate life, you have a 9-to-5 responsibility, you have to be there. If you're on your own, you're answering to yourself. And if you're not going to hold yourself accountable, hey, I'll watch TV in the afternoon, hey, I'll go out for dinner, hey, I'll do this, and then all of a sudden the work just never gets done, and then you're complaining the next day that you got no time to have fun anymore because you got to get that assignment done by the end of the day. So it's a tough balance, and for some people it works great, some people it doesn't work great, but it is kind of that human side where you just need to make sure that either you can handle it or you can't handle it, and it's not set out for everyone, but you have to figure out and kind of take a step back and really assess whether you can do that on your own.
Well, because I see that being a really big issue for a lot of my friends is the freedom. I was talking to a young guy last week, and he's like, I really struggle with discipline. Because like you said, I can sleep in if I decide to sleep in. I can, meet friends for lunch, or hey, I'm going to binge watch Netflix for a while. He's like, I just have days when I don't have a lot to do and I can't get out of my own way, because I say that like, oh, I only got a couple things to do, and all of a sudden you're looking going, well, 5:45, and those 2 things I had to do today and I had all day to do, I haven't done yet, and then they're working until 10 o'clock. So the discipline is very important if someone wants to start their own business then.
Discipline, I think, is huge, and it's having someone that you can be accountable for as well, and you have to be accountable to yourself, because if you're living by yourself or you have no one else really that's going to be kind of looking at you and making sure that you're doing the right thing. That's
Right, yeah.
always the toughest thing. You can just sit there and you can do nothing all day. Everyone can sit on the couch and do nothing all day
Yeah.
and watch TV and get caught up in what's going on. And the people who don't do that all day are the ones that usually become successful because they're out there meeting people, they're out there finding new business opportunities, and they're growing what they want to grow, and they're just trying to figure out what they want to do.
So one of the questions you hear is, how much money should I make? How much?
That's a personal opinion.
Right, yeah.
If you have a $10 lifestyle or up to $1 million lifestyle,
Sure, yeah.
that's 100% on you. What you want to make sure, at least in the business, is that you're making the proper amount of money that you should be and pricing your products correctly so that you are making the money that you do want to make at that point. But if you want to work 2 hours a day and make $10 or 8 hours a day and make more, then that's 100% on your choice. And
Right.
the people have to just figure out what they want to do and what kind of lifestyle they want to live too. If you want to live, 5 fancy cars in the garage, then you're going to have to work more. If you want to live with the 1999 type of car, then you don't have to do that. And you can't force people to do it one way or the other. It's what they want to do, what they're comfortable with, and it's the type of lifestyle and the type of business that they want to run at that point.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I see a lot of new businesses, come about, and their strategy is to be the cheap cost. I had a friend do that. Went out, called every business doing what she does, found out what the rates were, and just undercut them all. And I'm like, okay, I understand what you're trying to do, and you'll pick up business with that strategy, but you're selling yourself short. And and probably everyone else in town is going to hate you because now you just lowered the price of that service. But short term, I understand it, but long term, as you said, there's only so many hours in the day. So if you can't figure out a way to scale that, you're going to hold yourself back. So being the low cost alternative is not always the best strategy.
It depends on what your product is and what your service is at this point. I talk to most people and they prefer customer service over price. They're willing to pay an extra $1 or $2 if they know that service, they know that product is going to be there when they need it. And that becomes very important to the consumer, that they want to make sure that item is there when they need it, and not have to say, it's on back order and a week later it's going to happen and you need it in 2 days, so you can't get it at that point. For certain things, it is a price sensitive world, so you will take that lowest price and you'll get what you pay for sometimes too with that that price sensitivity that people will have.
Yeah, I think like you said, it depends on how I value that item, if I see it as a commodity or what I see it as. But now we get to the point where business is going well, we need to start hiring somebody. How do you know when you should hire your first employee? So you don't do it too early, you don't do it too late.
I think it really comes down to the amount of time that you're investing in the business. So if you're working 50, 60, 70 hours a week, hiring someone part-time will alleviate some of that tension that you might have at that point, and the time that you're investing into that business, and they could help out, and then they could do something a little bit different that, again, gives you a second set of eyes to be able to run things maybe a little bit more efficiently and a little bit more better within the business. Sometimes people hire people way too early and they sit around and they do nothing, and you're paying someone that's maybe got 1 hour work and you're paying them an 8 hour per day salary, and you're just not getting your return on investment at that point. So it is kind of a delicate balance, but there is kind of a gut feeling that kind of happens. Say, hey, you know what? I don't want to work Saturday night until 8 o'clock. Let me hire someone, and all of a sudden I'm done at noontime on Saturday, and life is a little bit better.
Yeah, but like you said, it's finding the right person. Two things I see happen. A, as you mentioned, we don't want to let go. So we hire someone, but Paul, they really can't do it as good as I can. So I don't want to let them do it, or I'm not willing to invest the time in training them so they can do it. So you're just kind of like, you don't really let go. If you're going to hire someone, you have to let go, right?
I think the biggest thing you have to realize is that they'll never do it the same way you're going to do it. And here's the funny thing, they might actually do it better than you.
Sure.
But you just don't know until you actually give them that opportunity, give them that chance to see what happens, to see whether they're going to be able to succeed or really, maybe just stumble at that point and not understand what's going on. But until you give them that opportunity, you just never know. And that's, the toughest thing for business owners all the time, because you set the business up, you did everything a certain way, and someone jumping in there might just do it a little bit different, but might turn out to be much better, and all of a sudden your clientele base starts growing because of it.
Yep. So when should I invest in a financial software package? I find so many people aren't using anything. And it's frightening. They go at the end of the year to their tax person or their financial person, and all of a sudden, on January 10th, they see their financial statement for the whole previous year. Probably not a super idea.
My opinion, you do it as quickly as you start a business. You want to keep track of what's going on. You want to separate your personal and your business expenses so that you don't run into that problem at the end of the year where you hand a shopping bag or a box over to your accountant and say, figure it out. The accountant will do it, but the accountant is going to charge you a lot of money to do that. And that's obviously, affecting your bottom line at that point. So the sooner you understand that, because it helps you with a lot of things. It helps you with your expenses. It helps you with your planning for the year. It helps you with a lot of different things during the year to understand what you're doing so you can make those calls in the moment and not say, hey, 6 months ago, this is what I should have done.
Yeah.
And by then it's obviously too late at that point. And you'll be backtracking for the rest of the time to try to figure out what you should have done at that point.
Yeah. But we should also keep our business and personal life separate. I see a lot of people just use their personal credit card. At the end of the year, they pull out their 12 months worth of statements and they start circling stuff. I went to Sam's Club. That was a business expense. Yeah. But if you ever got asked about it, saying, okay, I see Sam's $112. Well, what was it? I don't know. It was probably some, for me, it was some Mountain Dew involved, because never go to Sam's without buying Mountain Dew. So, like I said, we kind of, hey, while I'm at Sam's Club buying Mountain Dew, I'm going to, pick up some business supplies. So should keep it separate, right? So I can verify it?
Keep it separate. The last thing you want to do is have the IRS make a visit to you and then they ask that same question and you not have an answer, because they're always going to take the other side no matter what the correct answer is going to be. They're going to want to make sure that you're doing everything right, you're keeping track of everything, and that there's no problems whatsoever within your numbers, so that you actually know what a business expense is and what's not. You don't want to be putting the dance lessons under the business. You don't want to be putting a business trip under your personal stuff. You want those two things separate so that when you do your numbers, you understand what it is, and you know maybe why you're succeeding, maybe why you're not succeeding at that point.
Now, how about my local banker? Should I have a relationship with the person I bank with? I'm not just going to go in, to make a deposit, grab a lollipop, and leave. Should I, put a little bit more investment into that relationship?
You definitely go in, you grab the lollipop, but then you go over and you talk to that banker.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you have a relationship with them just in case, and down the road you might need a loan, you want to expand, you want to get some more services within your accounts at that point. You want to make sure that you do have a pretty good relationship with them. They can help you in ways that you wouldn't even think of that they can help you. They might know someone in the area to be able to help grow the business or get a new clientele that you weren't even thinking of. But more importantly, it's just that relationship that you have down the road to say, you know what, I need a loan at some point. I want to open that second location. How am I going to be able to do it? Who am I going to go to get the money? By knowing that banker already, he already knows, he understands what you're doing. Yep. He's able to help the process and underwriting and make all that stuff run a little bit smoother. You might not get the loan, but he'll at least understand what's going on, and he'll be able to put up a little bit of a fight for you with within that bank.
Who else should be on my team then?
I think you need a lot of different people, and it's just a matter of what type of services you are. I mean, marketing people, IT people, lawyers are always very important to have someone that you know that can do that type of stuff. You just never know when those type of things are going to pop up, so you want to make sure at least you have somebody on speed dial, at least within your network, that you can at least reach out to and ask a question of without getting charged an hourly rate at that point. Right. To say, hey, you know what, does this make sense? And they'll tell you yes or no, and from there it might turn into a retainer, it might not. Right, I mean, it just depends on what that question is, but you want to make sure you have those people involved, because it's only going to help you, and plus you can always run a business ideas by them and say, hey, am I doing the right thing? Or hey, you saw my ad, did it hit the right they hit the right target that I was really looking for? No,
it definitely makes sense, because especially with the lawyer, one of the things we talk about a lot is building up contracts, because you're like, well, Paul and I have known each other since high school. Paul's my client. We shook hands, we drank a beer, whatever we did. Well, it doesn't matter. Paul's my friend since high school. If something goes wrong, now Paul sees me as as a client, and he's going to treat me that way. So to have those relationships, and hey, I see it a lot, with people, reach out to a lawyer. I did a service, guy gave me a third up front. You completed your financial assignment, they didn't pay you the rest. You have a contract now. Well, how are you going to fight that? It was agreed was $5,000. He's going to say no, it was only at $1,500. That's why I gave it to him. So contracts and understanding that's huge, right?
Yeah, the he said, she said situation, when you get in the middle of that,
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, you're probably going to end up losing.
Sure.
You know, you just want to make sure you have everything, all your T's crossed and your I's dotted within the contract, just to make sure. No matter how long you've known someone, no matter how friendly you are with someone,
yeah.
you're always going to have a difference at some point. You're going to say,
Right, yeah.
one's going to see black, one's going to see white,
Right,
and
yeah.
unfortunately, someone always loses
Yeah.
whenever you do that type of stuff. So you don't want to be on the negative end at that point. Not that you want to crush and throw somebody out of business, but
Right, yeah.
you want to make sure if it is a 50-50 partnership,
Yeah.
you're getting your 50% out of it.
Sure,
You're not
yeah.
only getting 20%,
Yeah.
while the other person's getting 80%.
So how big should my sphere of influence be then?
I would have at least 4 to 5 people that you can reach out to at any point in time, and just make sure that you have confidence in those people, that they will tell you the truth and not just kind of, you know, make you hear what you want to hear. You know, the best people that you run into over time is people that tell you the truth and will not tell you what you want to hear at that point. And that way you go back and you kind of rethink and go, hey, you know what, I am making a mistake. I did overlook something. I want to make sure that that is correct going forward.
That's a really tough spot to be in, because I am that person. You know, if you're doing something and I don't think it makes sense, I'm going to give it unsolicited advice. And it's kind of funny to watch sometimes, like, Kev, I don't remember asking you. You know, but I just feel as your friend, you know, that I should be honest with you. And, you know, sometimes I have one guy in particular, you know, and I don't even know why we're friends. Because anytime he asks me something, I tell him it's stupid. And he just laughs. He's like, that's why I ask you, because you've never once lied to me. He goes, there's times I want to punch you in the throat. Because I'm like, heck, it's really great. He's like, no, it's stupid. And this is why it's stupid. But you need those people, you know, because sometimes, like, you have those, you know, friends, like, yeah, Paul, that's going to be great. You're going to crush it, man, you know. And, you know, we're laughing behind your back going, he's going to fall on his face. But we don't want to be the mean person and tell you that. We need at least one honest person in our lives.
You need that one honest person. You don't want to be the person who just it keeps telling you, yes, this is a great idea, this is a great idea, and then the idea is the worst thing in the world,
Yep.
and it falls flat on its face. And then, you know, no one ever wants to hear "I told you so" after the
Right,
fact.
yeah.
You want to make sure you fix it up front. And hey, if there was a little bit of flaw, let's fix it now.
Right, yeah.
Let's get that thing
Yeah.
the way that it should be, get it corrected, and then get it back on the tracks and get that thing moving in the right direction. And a lot of people just don't want to hear that, but you have to have that
Yeah.
one person that's going to say,
Yeah.
you know what, if you make this little tweak or you do this, everything's going to be great. And it turns from a business that fails all the way to a
Right,
billion-dollar
yeah.
business, and it's the next fad that's out there.
Well, you know, because I laugh about that, because often people give me ideas for the networking group, and I listen, like, hey, what's Paul's idea? And but usually, if you're pushing a little too much, I'm like, you think it's starting Friends of Paul? You know, that's kind of my way of saying, okay, you know, enough, dude, and stuff. But so we got people watching, thinking about making a business. What's the one piece of advice you'd give them? You know, hey, before you even decide that, you should think about this. What would it be?
I think you need to really put it down on paper and really run through the positives and negatives of what you're doing. Everything seems great just on the back of a napkin in the bar, and everything is going to be the best thing in the world. You get it out into the real light and everything of the world, and all of a sudden it just doesn't make sense anymore. So I think you really got to put a business plan together. You really got to understand what you want to do, and if you can actually get to where you want to get to. Some people stumble into success. Some people might have the best idea, but just make a lot of mistakes along the road, and it just never gets off the ground. But putting that down on paper and understanding what that long-term projection is, it's going to make or break what you're going to accomplish over a period of time.
I agree with that. It's being honest about your own skill set, and that's really hard, because you're like, I can do it, and I can build that. And sometimes, like you said, you just right place, right time, things work out. And other times, you know, you start off well, and then, you know, I've seen it with many people. You know, they're really good at what they do. Next thing you know, it's like, all right, you're not, you know, that plumber anymore. Now you're the office guy. You know, you're running the business, and you miss being a plumber, but you don't know how to manage business. So, you know, you see, okay, wow, look at Paul, he's crushing. He's got 7 trucks now. And then it's like, all right, then now it's back to just Paul, and, you know, and now it's Paul and 5 guys. So you just, you know, like I said, you have to, you know, give some thoughts and get help when you need it. And that's the hardest part for a lot of us entrepreneurs, is admitting we need help.
And again, the good thing is that there's plenty of people out there. Everyone has an opinion. Everybody you can ask them whether it's going to work or not. You know, kind of look at the film industry. They always do focus groups whenever they put a new TV show or a new movie out. If people like it, people don't like it, and they'll make changes based on that. And you have to kind of do that at the same thing in your business. You want to see if it's going to make sense. If there's 5 other people in the town that are doing the exact same thing, there's a good chance that you're not going to be as successful as you want. If no one else is doing it, then that's, you find that niche, you find that little perfect avenue to work down, and it makes life a lot easier.
So why do so many businesses fail then?
It is, going back to the beginning we talked about, it is the owner sometimes. The owner is, just set on doing the wrong thing. They use up all their money, and then all of a sudden the business has nothing to fund anymore. There's only so much money you can borrow out of your 401k or out of your IRAs or out of your retirement accounts before someone's going to say, hey, you know what, this is not making sense anymore. And then you end up back trying to figure out what the next step is going to be. But cash is king in business all the time. If you don't have the cash, you can't go out, you can't promote yourself, you can't go buy your materials if you're building a product. You don't have anything to do at that point. So, you have to find someone who's willing to at least admit that they can make a mistake, and make sure they have the funds in order to pay for those mistakes at the same time.
But that's a really challenging piece, the funding side, because a lot of us look, and maybe convince our spouse or somebody that we have a winning idea. It's like, babe, I'm going to empty out my 401k and we're going to go for it. We're going to build a restaurant. We're going to, something that involves a lot of capital. And you're wrong. So now you have that, defeat on the business side, but also, it's had a huge impact on your life, because now that money, you're hoping to retire in 20 years, you just spent, all your 401k money, so there's no real retirement inside either. It can have a huge impact on your life as well as, relationships.
Yeah, and unfortunately, people make haste decisions, and they don't kind of sit back and take 24, 48 hours to kind of think it through. Again, put it down on paper, make sure it makes sense, look at your pros and cons. Every idea looks great right now as you think about it, and then you do it, and then you drive by and you see someone doing the exact same thing, and you go, oops, now I just put a lot of money down, I just put my financial future down, and all of a sudden, all that money is gone. And you just want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. It's not going to guarantee that you're going to have success, but at least you've kind of worked that out and you understand, okay, here's my market, here's my little niche that I have. Let's go make sure that I can do that. And I'm not doing the same thing as a guy down the street who already has 90% of the business, and people are loyal to him, and you're not going to be able to get what you need to out of the business.
Now, I'm chuckling at you because, at least in my ideas are not cost, but I'll have that idea. Usually it's between 7 and 8 p.m. I'm like, here's a great idea for my business. And I reach for my phone and I start texting people. Paul, what do you think about that? Now, when I have that idea at 7 o'clock, I make a note on my phone. I put my phone down, keep watching TV. And surprisingly, a lot of times I wake up at 4 a.m. when I get up, the idea is horrible. But at 7, maybe I'm a little tired or just dreaming. Like, oh my God, this is the greatest idea I've ever had. And surprisingly, 8 hours later, I'm like, nah, that's stupid. So sometimes, like I said, it's important to just put it down and pause and think about it for a couple of days.
It's not going to, at 7 o'clock at night, you're not going to be able to get a patent and everything before 8 o'clock. So everything's going to be there the next day. And if it doesn't materialize the way you think it is the next day, then you kind of have your answer at that point. And if everything continues to materialize and everything looks great, then all of a sudden you do have your answer at that point. But you just want to make sure you're doing the right thing, and you're not kind of jumping the gun and putting yourself in a negative situation.
And I think that's where having those great resources makes sense. You can reach out to a financial person like yourself, maybe a lawyer friend, going, here's my idea, punch holes in it. And a lot of times it's like, dude, I'm gonna knock it out in one punch, So it's, like you said, trust your friends before you invest all your money. Easiest way to end the show?
Easiest way to do that. Easiest way to say that.
All right, Paul, appreciate you taking time to come on the show. Simple as that, guys. See you next time.